Hello, you. Let me ask you something. Why haven't you subscribed to ClassHorrorCast yet? Do you think I'm not gonna notice? Well, I see everything. And I see you wetting your pants right now. The question isn't should you subscribe to ClassHorrorCast or not. The question is, did I just subscribe you? Now enjoy the show. I'll be watching.
Welcome back to another episode of ClassHorrorCast. I'm your host Aran, and in this week's episode I'm joined by world-renowned composer John Massari. While John is well known for his work on Killer Klownz from Outer Space, he has also scored Retro Puppet Master, various paranormal TV shows, and a whole host of projects from Disney, Sony, MGM, and many, many more. I got the chance to talk with John about his love for film, the future for Killer Klownz, his advice for following your dreams, and some fantastic tips, tricks, and stories from his long and illustrious career. Join me as I dive inside the mind of composer John Massari. So can you remember what your gateway into movies was, and if you have a particular story or you can remember your gateway into horror specifically?
Well, horror specifically, that's very interesting. Okay, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to bypass everything. We're not going to be talking about piano lessons or the very first time I saw a movie, how I struck it. We're going to wind it up to when I was had already done some work with the Walt Disney Company, and I was starting to show up on various people's radar. I had a roommate that sent me a. He went to the library and he says, there's an ad. There's someone out in Washington D.C. I was living in Hollywood at the time. I still basically live in Hollywood. And he said, someone in Washington, D.C. is doing a trailer for their movie. And they want you, they're looking for a composer. So this is back in the day where you had to prepare a cassette tape. And you you can compose a nice little letter. You mailed it off to the address and you waited to see what would happen. And so about 3 weeks later, a gentleman by the name of Eric Young, he said, I saw your video and I really liked it. And he did a trailer that was for a movie based on a H.P. Lovecraft story. So he really liked it. We actually recorded with a little orchestra, and it turned out nice, and it was a wonderful experience. And a few months later, he said, listen, I know some guys I used to work with at DC doing commercials. They're working on this movie. You're too much of a serious composer. It sounds like a really crazy movie, but I figured I'd just give you a call and see if you want to do it. And I go, what's the name of the movie? And he says, it's called Killer Klownz from Outer Space. And I said, are you kidding? I would love, based on the title alone, I want to do that. I mean, I have to. So I was introduced to the Kyoto brothers and I auditioned with several other composers. We had a screening at Warner Brothers Studio. Everyone got a package with kind of like a little description of the movie and a VHS tape. And so I went to one particular scene. If anyone's familiar with the movie, when the two kids go into what they think is a circus tent, which turns out to be an alien spaceship, and they meet the clowns and they get into a chase and they manage to escape, and the clowns follow them they then march upon the town, and the movie commences. So I felt this was a keystone moment. And so that's how I came upon the horror genre, is doing that little trailer and then Killer Klownz from Outer Space.
That's something that's fascinating to me when you say about you audition and stuff like that. So how does that process work? is it similar to, I guess, an actor auditioning for a role? How do you go about kind of getting yourself out there for that? Is it recommendations and then?
Mm-hmm. Well, I first of all, I must say that the media industry in general is not for the squeamish. You have to have a very thick skin. It's people will stare you right in the eye, and even you may be a brilliant, you may have talents that are undiscovered, and they'll look you straight in the eye and says, "Well, I don't know you," So it's getting to the point where people know you, like as a person, and they know your work, and it's very simple concepts of showing up on time, having a sense of focus and enthusiasm into what you're doing. And if you're not genuinely interested in working on a project, or it's not worth pursuing. If you're just doing it like, listen, I need a paycheck. There's a lot of things you could do to get a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's presenting to people that you have something to contribute to what they're working on. Because if you go and analyze any movie, even the most average, everyday garden variety movie, it takes a very concerted effort to bring a script onto film and edit and have it stay together and captivate an audience's interest enough that it will be on Netflix or YouTube or what have you. There's a lot of effort that goes in that. Even the most, like I said, basic movies that aren't that successful, there's a lot of work that goes into them and a lot of skill. So for you to be part of the team that people can rely on, in this case, music, that's what you have to establish. And those are basic character traits that people admire and they'll always want to work with you because you're reliable and you can show an interest and an enthusiasm for what you're working on. So to put yourself out there, to just put like ads in a newspaper and things like that, it's not done that way anymore. It's basically going to conferences, film exhibitions where they're showing, in Los Angeles here, for instance, every once in a while, there'll be pop-ups. There'll be new directors nights where an exhibitor will get a bunch of new filmmakers to show all their short films. Mm-hmm. So you may see something from someone that really resonates you, and you have to have the personality to walk up and introduce yourself and say something about, make some sort of observation and some sort of personal connection out with that person that, it doesn't mean next week they're going to hire you, but there's someone that they know that has tuned in to their project, mm-hmm. To what they're doing. Or you may be very fortunate in learning that you'll meet a director or producer or someone who's developing a film that's not yet done. So there's a certain amount of extroversion you have to have. That doesn't mean only extroverted people can be in this business. There's certainly a lot of introverted people that are in this business. But if you want to, anything you want to do, if you hang out with people that have similar interests and similar goals, things start to organically connect. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And on the topic of that, music, scores, sound. I know obviously there's a huge revival recently in things like vinyl, and that's become like $1 billion industry again. And I even notice it here, there's a lot of the younger demographics seem to be going back to things like that and maybe appreciating scores of movies and that they might not have before. Do you
Right.
still think that the power and the role that music and a score plays in film is still kind of underplayed? How important that can be?
Yes, it's underplayed until it's when you take the music out of the movie, that's when people all of a sudden realize it's gone.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I myself catch myself watching a movie that I like, and I go, "Oh, I'm not listening to the music."
Yeah.
That's because I'm just watching the movie. You know, I remember having an argument with a producer, and I said, "I really admire the score for this is, and it had just been released for Predator." He says, "I don't think it had a score." Yeah, it did. Go see it again. It has a very innovative, incredible score by Alan Silvestri. And because everyone's caught up in the overall experience of the film, like no one's paying attention to all the great lighting, you know, because lighting up a scene, especially an action scene where you can see everything and everything's falling into place, there's a lot of work that goes into that. People aren't going to really pay attention to it until the lights get turned off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The same thing with the music, you know. Well, I didn't, you know, I can't tell you if the acting was good or bad. I just love the movie. You know, there are people that actually say that. They can't like make a observation about, let's say, the acting or even the script because they were too busy enjoying the whole movie. So I think with the advent of different media to exhibit music on has definitely kind of reawakened a variety of soundtracks and movies from various eras of film. And it's a wonderful thing. It just goes to show that people are engaged in the art of music and in the art of film. I know people, you say with vinyl, well, there's also cassettes are coming back. I was just on New Year's Eve, I was with my wife in a record store, and it was obviously a vinyl record store, but they had a whole section of cassettes. So cassettes are also a thing. Bands like Metallica release everything in, you know, CD, just about every conceivable exhibition format of music. They have vinyl, CD, cassettes, and download of their music. And it's just wonderful to see that. You know, it's a tactile a medium that people can collect. Now, also with film, people enjoy watching, and I know not many people, but there's a few people I've run into that have extensive VHS collections, and they enjoy watching their movies on VHS that were. The VHS are configured for more of a square format for a television. And it just says, this is how I remember, this is how I discovered this particular film. It's like, I almost don't want to see it on a big screen. I want to see it, you know, on my little VHS with the scan lines going through every once in a while.
I definitely feel that. Why do you, in your opinion, why do you think that, you know, vinyl, cassettes, things like that have had such an uptake in recent years?
I just think it's maybe a flexibility. I don't have a 100% answer because I myself, I mean, if I was going to pick between listening from an audio experience, listening to an audio cassette, which is technically called a compact cassette, and a vinyl, I would listen to the cassette because pops in the records used to drive me crazy. It's to the point when I would buy a new record, I would press my cassette deck on record, put the vinyl needle down and record it, because it's just the pops and crackles are going to just develop over the years. And I want to listen to something several times. I don't want to wear the record out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
It's funny because as much as we move towards a more digital age, it seems some of these physical media things are having like huge upsurges at the same time.
Right.
Which is, I love it. I'm a big physical media guy of many forms, but I do find it strange because, you know, as more advanced we seem to get, I never thought I would be sitting here having a conversation with you about cassette tapes and vinyls being like, you know, billion-dollar industries again.
Right.
I mean, it's great, but it's very bizarre. It's very bizarre.
And there's some people that prefer listening to MP3 as opposed to full resolution audio, which drives recording engineers and mastering engineers insane. You know, I mean, the average person can't pick up the difference. I can pick up the subtle difference. It doesn't kill me, you know, sometimes. But if I have to professionally deliver something, obviously I deliver on high resolution audio. But people also like their little MP3 players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've even seen like things like, and I know they're not that old, but like the original iPods and stuff, people have like been bringing that back around now.
Right.
And it just seems like, even though it's not, it just seems like something of the past. Like when I hear somebody say, oh yeah, I've got my iPod, I'm like,
right.
You not got a phone or something else? I just feel like it's just become so convenient.
I have nieces and nephews that their parents bought them like they used to call them a brownie camera, you know, a little tiny camera that has film in it, you know, that has a little cartridge of film, and it only takes 24 pictures.
Yeah.
They have to go to the drugstore to pick up the.
I didn't even know they were still around.
They're still around?
I didn't.
Are there?
Yeah.
Somewhere there must be. Someone's got to be able to. A camera store, someone's got to be able to, or you mail it in or something like that.
Yeah,
to get
maybe so.
To get made into prints. I don't know. There's some stores. It's not common.
It's
just not common.
It's so strange, because even to think about it now, I have family in the States, in New York, and anytime we would travel over there, it was like, the States was always, I guess, ahead of Ireland for a lot of things. You guys got movies earlier. Products came out before, like 6 months beforehand. And
right.
I remember Sony released some sort of a new Walkman or something like that. And I was like one of the first people, I think at the time, like I was pretty young, and I was like the only person that had this.
Wow.
And like even then, like it's not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, but to think that I would leave the house to like go somewhere with you know, a hoodie with a pocket, and I would have this huge CD player and then like a stack of CDs.
Right.
And really I only had maybe like 50 songs, and now that somebody can have a phone that has just unlimited.
You can YouTube alone. Yeah. You know, you have a resource of music that you don't have to worry about data storage. You just stream it off of YouTube, or there's SoundCloud and Bandcamp and obviously Spotify. Yeah, it's really interesting how it's very flexible. You know,
yeah,
it's very, very flexible.
Convenience. Can you remember the first horror movie that you ever saw?
Yeah, I have to keep looking it up. It's such a what do you call it? It's such a buried memory because it absolutely terrified me. And it was on television. And it had been in the theaters probably like 5 years prior. Let me see. I'm going to get it right here. Did I get it right? Yes, I did. Released in 1963, directed by Robert Weiss. Now, Robert Weiss directed the classic um, West Side Story from the 1950s, big musical, right? So this movie is called The Haunting. And I could not sleep after I saw that movie. I could not sleep that night. And I stayed awake, frozen in my bed, I guess because the house was so merciless and it picked one person. I don't know if you're familiar with the story. It basically picked one person to exact its horror upon. And then that one person became part of the house. And it just absolutely terrified me. And I lie awake, frozen. I was probably 6 years old. No, I was 6 or 7 years old. And I lay there frozen in my bed with my eyes closed until the morning light came. And then I was fine after that, you know. But that particular, I think my terror was more out of empathy than scared of ghosts that were going to get to me. Thinking, how can it be such a horrible thing for that girl? It's a brilliant movie. I think I saw it again when I was in my teens and again in my 20s. And I think that goes for anything. It goes for any book. You know, sometimes you can't read one. I would rather have 100 books I read in my lifetime that I'm very familiar with than read thousands. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So sometimes there's certain books you can read as a kid and as a teenager and as an adult, and they'll mean something to you. The meaning of the film or whatever the art form is will mean something different. It goes for music as well. So when I saw The Haunting when I was, an adult in my late 20s, I got to appreciate certain things, and I can understand how 6-year-old John Massari, 7-year-old John Massari was terrified. What specifically terrified him? Can look back on different dimensions of your persona. But that's how I was. That was my first experience with horror, and I've always liked monster movies. There was no shortage of black and white Elvis and Costello, the horror movies that they had, and then the real horror movies of the time. There's, the class, all kinds of monster movies, including King Kong and Mighty Joe Young. There used to be this thing in Los Angeles, and I remember in New York as well, there was like the $1 Million Theater where they would pick a movie like The Blob. I probably saw The Blob 11 times in the course of a week because they would play a movie several times, like 2 times a day for a week. So it got ingrained in your, and if you talk to, I know the Chiodo brothers, Tom Savini, a lot of guys that grew up watching that stuff as a kid, they'll tell you about the $1 Million movie. Tom Savini, for those who don't know, is a master makeup and mask artist. He's got really great, wonderful guy. Very fascinating life story that he has. My friends, the Grim Life Collective, did a mini feature about his life. It's absolutely, when you can watch someone who does something different than you do, and you can appreciate their approach and their passion for what they do, it rubs off on you. You can relate to it as to what you do.
I also, to point out on the topic of Tom, is aging gracefully as well. I recently seen a screenshot of, I think, a picture of him like 15, 20 years ago, and then a picture of him recently. Yeah. He seems to look after himself as much as possible.
That's really good. It is really good. And what he does is kind of physical. He has to get up in the morning, move stuff, and he's sculpting and things like that. And probably has a lot of muscle memory from, because he was in the service. He was in the Army. He actually... I missed it by months And it's very interesting. That's another topic. But I mean, because we were required not only to sign up for the draft, we were, your number could come up, and his number came up. And I don't know how long he was in the Army, but he has very fascinating stories about his experience in the Army. And I think maybe he kept his basic training regiment with him. So that's why he's in such great shape.
Yeah, I heard him tell stories about that, all right.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've worked with Disney, MGM, Sony, so many. There's like, I'd be here all night trying to list them all. And obviously a lot of people listening to this show have kind of obviously a focus on the horror genre. Killer Klownz, Retro Puppet Master. And another thing I had noticed, and I kind of wanted to ask, was this something, is there a trend? Is there something to this? You've done a lot of stuff for, I guess, paranormal shows and haunting shows, and which I personally love that style of storytelling. I just find it quite intriguing. Right. Is there any particular reason why? Was that something that you actively were looking to do? Are you like a believer in that kind of stuff? Have you had any experiences, or is it just something that kind of naturally happened?
Well, I'll address your inquiry from the musical media standpoint. I did a collection of music over a period of maybe several years. I can't pin down the number of years, all the way up until like 2000, the mid 2000s. And I have a relationship with a company called Extreme Music that basically administers my music to a variety, everything from video games and commercials and trailers to reality television or to specific theme. And I've done a collection of music that has resonated with directors and music editors and picture editors, such that it has become like a standard in some shows, like the paranormal shows. There's like there's a ton of them. There's about my favorite ghost stories and what have you. And it's just such a thrill to know that music always gets a different life. And on the other hand, I've done a lot of family Disney-esque music that has wound up in many video games and trailers. And matter of fact, with the same outfit, I did a bunch of Christmas music last year. That's starting to show up, and it's Christmas music, but not like Jingle Bells. It's like the evocative of the holiday seasons. And it's interesting how it's starting to be used on, there's a show called The Kelly Clarkson Show. And I don't know I haven't seen it, but they're using that music in her show for some reason. I'd be fascinated to see how they use it. So basically, there's a lot of music of mine that gets licensed out for a variety of purposes. And this is Extreme Music is a company founded by two really great punk rockers from England, Dolph Taylor and Russell Emanuel. And they work very closely with, they're partnered with Hans Zimmer as well. Oh, wow. So it's a very forward-thinking organization as far as the way they do music. They always want music that has an iconic character to it, that they can, when you listen to it, you say, okay, this could work for on emotional levels for so many different things. This would be fantastic. And they know where to take it from there. They have this sales department, the licensing department, and what have you. So that's the guts, the inner working of it all. How do you get there? All I know is that one of the things they've told me is, just make a great track and we'll figure out what to do with it. Yeah. Sometimes I'll give them something that I think is brilliant. They say, I don't know, mate. I don't get it. Okay. All right. But I get these other things you're doing. Okay. Well, you guys know what you're doing. So, but I will find another home for that music. Killer Klownz from Outer Space is a very similar story. I wrote the Killer Klownz March theme, the one that goes don't 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 don't. I wrote that when I was 15. And my band at the time, we were doing hard rock before it was officially called metal. We were playing Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and Kiss and all that sort of stuff. We decided we were going to do our own original music. So I took that to them, and they didn't like it. They thought it sounded too jazzy. And so it just sat there in my head, that little theme for all these years. And I saw Killer Klownz from Outer Space, and I said, okay, this is it. This is your time, for that particular song. So that's another thing too. You can't let people's opinion of you dictate what's going to happen, just because not everyone understands what you're about. Not everyone's going to get it right off the bat. So when time came, I used that theme with Killer Klownz. That's the one thing that just said, okay, you've captured it. With that motif, you've captured the spirit of clowns. So so basically that
must be that must be a nice feeling now. That I know probably a lot of times, well, definitely anyone who's a fan of horror in any facet will probably bring that up to you, and it's something that you hear about quite a lot. But it's got to be nice, I would imagine, that I feel like Killer Klownz, a lot of other movies, scores, music from that time, I don't want to say they've disappeared, but they had their time, and people know of them, but Killer Klownz seems to have stuck around all this time, and now again it seems to be kind of rising up. Like I'm a huge fan of Halloween Horror Nights. I've never actually been to the one in Hollywood, but I normally travel every year to Orlando, and the fact that nice. Like they had the scare zones and they done the mazes and stuff. That is that like a kind of I guess, for lack of a better word, like a holy shit moment where you get to walk into a theme park attraction and hear something that you've put together all those years ago?
That's a very, very, very great observation that you made. I think it just validated the impact of that crazy little movie. Michael Aiello, that was creative director at the time. He's doing something else now with Universal. I think it's music events. But at the time, when I saw that video of the opening night of Halloween Horror Nights Scare Zone, and he was there with the, his camera, his phone, doing a video selfie and saying, "Here it is. This is it." And I said, that's what it's all about. It is connected with people. The lightning in the bottle that we captured with Killer Klownz from Outer Space has resonated with people. I know one of your questions, will there be a sequel or anything? I don't know. All I know is that when the Chiodo brothers were asked to do this movie, they just did something that they wanted to see, and therein lies the magic. So it took a while. Even the company that produced the movie, there were very few people that had a lot of faith in it. I have a story where after I did the movie, I took the master tapes back with me and I mixed them much more. I got more involved in the mix to really explore some of the colors. And when I delivered the master tapes back, I was on the elevator with guys from the legal department, and I could say, "Go, what's this for?" I go, "Oh, it's for one of your products, the Killer Klownz from Outer Space. It's the music score." He says, "You should just take that thing, put it in the dumpster. That movie is going to die so fast, it's going to make your head spin." That movie, no one will ever remember that thing. What a piece of crap. Were their words. And I said, well, you know what? Obviously, it's not a movie for you. So boy, were they wrong.
Yeah, I love hearing those stories.
Yeah.
I love hearing those stories.
We just had a bunch of near misses is what happened. Is when it got released, this is before the days of social media where word travels like wildfire, right? And so there were two very good reviews in the LA Times and the LA Weekly. But by the time the reviews were published and people read them, it had been 2 weeks and the movie was gone. The movie was scheduled to be in the theaters for a week in various parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And so I think even the LA Times gave it the New York Times even gave it a nice, the Chicago Tribune gave it a quirky little review. I think because those people understood the creative spirit behind it. So I think that's what resonates with the fans. That's why you get fans that are constantly drawing pictures. They're making little Sculpey models.
Yeah.
Of course, they're collecting all the toys and everything. There are people that send me their musical interpretations of the score and the main title theme by the Dickies, which is absolutely brilliant. It's had this wonderful little life. And, I don't have any control over the property like I would love to, but what I do have control over, what I can respond to the fans, is I can do musical events, of which I've done. I did a live to film concert with an orchestra a couple of years ago, and we were gearing up to do another one, and the whole COVID thing came. So that's being reinitiated. In the spring, I'm going to be doing a musical event that's evocative of the Scare Zone at Halloween Horror Nights. Because what was so wonderful about that, it was such a party atmosphere. Everyone was having so much fun that I said, if I could do something like this that, in LA that lasts for 3 nights, that would be such a fun event for the fans. So I've recorded a whole bunch of new music based on the soundtrack that's very recognizable, and we're just going to have a get-together that will be in the spring, and I'll let you know about it. I don't know if you can come out or not, but definitely we'll take video to share with everybody.
That's amazing. And I feel like that I can't speak for other communities, but the horror community, right. When they get behind something, they really get behind it. It's like a lifelong commitment, and they really,
right.
I think aside from all of us being collectors and stuff, we do like to get behind and stay behind things that we like and are passionate about. So I definitely think that a lot of people will be happy to hear that. And I would imagine I don't know what your feeling is on it, but I would imagine that the fans won't want that to be a one-off situation. I'd imagine will create
there are plans in the works to make this a regular music. I can do musical events. I got permission from MGM to do the first one. Well, I think it's going to be MGM/Amazon. And I got permission from them. They were very happy. They were satisfied with what I did. And when I expressed this new concept to them, they were very thrilled, acknowledging that, I'm doing whatever I can to perpetuate the brand. And listen, it's all about the fans. The fans are the ones that have driven all of this interest. When you have people that have tattoos of the complete story arc of the film on their arm that took them 2 years to do it, you can't ignore them. You can't just not want it. It's so inspiring. I have a friend in Connecticut here in the States, very beautiful person that she showed me the sequential progress of her tattoo artwork, as with many other people. And it's just, to me, listen, if they're that committed to put artwork on their body, I can at least sit down and create, which is what I do, create more music for them.
Yeah. When you put it that way, it is. And I think sometimes people lose sight of that. They think that a person is just a fan of something I guess, because they are, which
Right.
a lot of times, like, everybody interprets movies different. And I know personally, you know, there's pieces of music, there's scenes in movies, there's entire movies that have helped me through certain times, and then when I call back to them, I get that feeling. It reminds me of, I always call them like a comfort movie or comfort music or whatever it might be.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, people are so passionate, and it isn't just a case of, you know, I like a movie because I like it, or I like a song just because. There's, I think, always a subconscious reasoning behind why.
Yeah, it's an emotional that film or music has given you an emotional experience that you've latched onto, and I see that if people are inspired enough to constantly create new artwork, you know, fans specifically, new work, sculptures, put tattoos on their bodies, dress up in costume, you know, they deserve something else. And it's within my power to do that. I mean, I just can't ignore it. You know, it's like, I feel like, you know, I'm the uncle that will, that keeps track of the nieces and nephews and sees that they're interested in something. And I help support that interest.
Yeah.
You know, when I discovered the fan base and I started getting invited to do a variety of appearances, I looked around and says, you know, I just can't sit here at a table and just sign autographs. I know I can do something else. I know there's something more that I can do that's not only going to be gratifying for the fans, but will also be gratifying toward me. Because I mean, it's maybe difficult to understand, but there's a joy I get out of people that are enjoying themselves from something I've created, you know, you know, and I feel like like I said before, I feel like I have a bunch of nieces and nephews and grandkids throughout the world that I inherited thanks to Killer Klownz from Outer Space.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think another thing on the topic of music, you know, when you said, you know, it elicits certain emotions, etc. It's something that I think, again, kind of gets overlooked because I guess a lot of the mainstream audience take it for granted because, you know, these films are put together and composed. The music is composed in such a way that it all just seems right. So I don't think we actually take credit, or we don't give credit enough to how important sound is and how important music in particular. Like, I have seen kind of a bad example, but something like TikTok videos, and I have seen people use just generic, like, stock images of, you know, maybe waves crashing on a beach or something like that,
right,
and put a piece of music to it, and now all of a sudden people,
it's been elevated.
Yeah, like, people get emotional, people feel a certain way. Even if it's a motivational speech or something, if somebody puts the right piece of music with that, all of a sudden now it, like,
right, they have a visual and audio platform for what drives them. I can't move forward until I give a nod and a credit to the Kyoto brothers, because it's their boy-like enthusiasm for what they do, and Killer Klownz is like a manifestation of all the things they were interested in the horror genre as kids. Was the motivation and result that all that resulted in. Let me word that properly. We have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
The Kyoto brothers had a very specific interest growing up as young boys that they were able to translate and manifest that love for horror genre into the movie that we all now appreciate, Killer Klownz from Outer Space. That's what makes it most successful. You're seeing the fruits of like boyhead enthusiasm for a particular genre. And that's hard to create from scratch, from like from a meeting at a company. Like, you know, it's the same thing with Star Wars. Star Wars was an expression of George Lucas' love for the science fiction genre from when he was a kid. You know, and it shows on the screen for all of its, you know, you can pick them apart all you want, but that is the core that everyone, all the fans zone in on. And that's what Killer Klownz has in spades.
Do you think, and I know you kind of alluded to it a couple of moments ago, you probably get asked this a million times, there's been talks about a TV show, there's been talks about a sequel, different things like that. I guess, do you think we'll see it? And are you, would you champion something like that? Is that something you'd love to revisit?
Well, all I could say, here's the official explanation. The property is owned by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. And if anyone was going to give a go-ahead, well, excuse me, now / Amazon or Amazon only, I don't know how that would work in reality. But the property is owned by MGM. And if anything is going to be made, it's going to be made from a desire that they want to do with it. In the meantime, all we can do is do what we're doing now, meet with people. And what I can do, I can always create new musical interpretations and new events for people to participate in. That's what I have control over. But as far as like doing a TV series or another movie or any other iteration, if it has the involvement of the Kyoto brothers and that core element of a boyhood fascination, childlike fascination with what they have created, you can't create that out of nothing. That has to be that evolved. So I think that's where the lightning in the bottle concept comes from. You know, the only way you can recapture that lightning in the bottle is if you let the Kyoto brothers just do what they know how to do best, which is, you know, kind of relive their boyhood fantasies of monster films and stuff like that, and as adults express it on the screen. Yeah,
and I feel like they still have that wonder and passion and creativity for the you know, for that. I always refer to it as a franchise, and like
genre, it's not a franchise yet.
Yeah, but it feels like that because it has such weight, and I feel like, you know, when you say to anybody Killer Klownz, like even a non-horror fan has probably heard of it or seen it. It's out there in the zeitgeist,
right,
more than I think people give it credit for. And to see how involved they were, I kind of somewhat personally know Michael Aiello, who you talked about earlier. And even to see, you know, when they brought it back for Horror Nights, how kind of involved and excited that they seem to be by the whole concept of this coming back. And, you know, it wasn't, I don't want to talk, you know, I don't want to talk bad about anyone in particular, but sometimes you see with something like this, you know, somebody creates something that gets to a certain level and you can tell after a while, it's just like, there's no desire anymore. It's like, where do I get my check? Let me just whatever. It's just, Killer Klownz, woohoo. And they really don't feel like that. It really feels like that there's still that wonder and creativity there. And I think it would be amazing to see everybody come back together again.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that.
That would be nice. Yeah, that would be nice. I remember my first experience where I fell in love with the film was when I went to that screening for the audition. And it wasn't until we came to the scene in the forest and you see this beautiful, like, vision of a circus tent. What is that? Is it a circus tent? Is it a spaceship? What the heck is that? That's when I said, okay, I know where these guys are going with this. This is like right there at that moment. I always felt if there was anywhere to bring that scene earlier into the movie, or but it's just such. I have it. You can see it right here. It's just so the colors are so delicious, you know, and you know, you could just sense a spirit of imagination from that scene. So when I saw that scene in the movie, I said, okay, I'm really into this now. Okay, now you've given me something to really sink my teeth into. Because before that, there was the usual stuff with the teenagers making out, and you know, it's like the beginning of some sort of '80s teen movie, and then you have that, and all of a sudden this appears in the middle of the forest. And I go, okay, now we're talking. You know? And you got to give credit to the editor of the film. Chris Roth, who really made a tight movie. I mean, that movie's 83 minutes long. It's not a long movie. No. And I've done some horror genre that they were trying to tune into the 80s field. I go, well, you know, there's that interesting number, the 80s. You say the 80s, but if you can keep it to 80 some odd minutes, you're going to be really good. And if you can like really tighten up your movie to fit in that, because that was the regulation number back then. It's like, wow, 180 minutes. That's really good. I can sell that to a lot of stations because we can put commercials in. That's the way to look at it. It's a business, right? And so it's not over demanding of your time. It's not a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. It's long enough that it gives you a nice fast ride and a good feeling. And just like you said, it's like comfort food. Yeah. Almost.
Yeah. Right. It is one of those movies.
Yeah.
Here's kind of a maybe a strange question. If you could score a movie, whether it be either, I guess, redo the music or change it, or if you could score another sequel or something within an existing horror IP or franchise, is there something that you would love to work on?
Oh, you mean another title?
Yeah, like is there whether it be a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Friday the 13th or whatever, is there anything within the horror realm that kind of sticks out to you? Like, yeah, I'd like to try that.
Well, you know, my friend, I went to school with him, Chris Young, who's done tons of really great horror films. He did a number of films, and I'm sorry I forgot the titles, but they were almost like, it was like a mixture of film noir and horror. And I very much would love to get involved in, because film noir was very dependent on solid story structure and very captivating and engaging. So if there was going to be something else I would like to do, you want me to name a franchise? Boy, I would love to work on one of the Saw movies. You know,
yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like that.
Charlie Klauser, who did those scores, just did an incredible job. And we did a panel discussion not too long ago, and Charlie Klauser is just hilarious. The way he describes he's so brutally honest. The way he describes when he comes up with an idea and presents it to the director, and then the director leaves his studio and he goes, God, what did I just do? I have to like do all the stuff I described now. What was I thinking? You know, and that's basically what we go through sometimes. We kind of like, our imagination goes wild with what we want to do. And then you realize, okay, now I got to do that. Okay, let me get my checklist.
Yeah,
but anyway, Saw would be one. I would love to do the Saw franchise. If I love the Harry Potter series, I know that's not genre, that's more fantasy.
Yeah.
If there was any chapter of Harry Potter, I really love that feeling. The scores that John Williams created were just truly, truly magical. It's like he tuned into my favorite English composers. There's one composer named Arnold Bax, who's kind of like the Claude Debussy of the British Isles, and he was very much into Celtic. Arnold Bax was very much into Celtic Celtic lore, and his music was very evocative of that. He's a classical composer that was around the early 20th century. And so it seems like John Williams zoned in on that kind of feel, and he so magically brought it. Anyways, it's a genre of orchestral music that I very much admire. So those are some of them. You know, I thought one day I would want to do one of the Star Trek iterations. You know, but I think I'm leaning more toward. I mean, if I had to pick myself, I would like to pick something like what I had mentioned before.
Yeah. When you had mentioned about, you know, your mind runs wild with creativity, you say all these things, you know, we can do this, I can do that, I've got a feeling for this, and then you kind of have to step away and go, okay, now I've got to actually follow up on this. It kind of leads into another question I was going to ask is, maybe if you could give a layman's term simplified version of what your process is when you actually have a project. Like, how do you it always fascinated me, like, how do you start that? Is it just a case of, like, you know, I'm trying to picture you sit down at a desk and it just seems like such a, because music to me and a score, it seems like such an immense task. It's like, how do you even start that?
It's got sometimes people don't realize it's got a million moving parts, you know, and a lot of it comes from your basic concept of the music that you're going to make. There's nothing like a great theme or a great chord sequence or a motif to be the springboard of what everything else exists. I don't focus in on like what instruments I'm going to use, what technology I'm going to use. I first that will evolve when I realize what kind of musical material I'm going to be dealing with. Is it going to be very sparse? Is it going to be very thematic? Is it going to be more textural? You know, once I can come up with like, okay, I've come up with these musical building blocks, like musical ideas, then I can go into the technology that I have. And I said, okay, within all the tools available to me, this is what I'm going to use. It's almost like an artist that wants to create a picture of, let's say, a landscape. And they decide, you know what? I'm just going to have white paper and charcoal. I'm going to make everything happen with the contrast that the charcoal is going to have against the white paper. Vice versa. There's you can have black paper and you have white charcoal, you know. And I'm going to make everything happen with that. So that's what I also establish. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to have every instrument plug-in, and every musician in the world is going to be playing with this all at once. And I'm going to figure out how to shoehorn it in. So what I do is like, find, you know, I'm going to use these particular sounds and tools and create the whole score. That's how I did Killer Klownz from Outer Space. I picked a fixed number of colors and sounds that I was going to use, that I was going to be able to draw upon for different scenes, and so it just makes it that much more rewarding. So that's the basic concept. You know, as far as the nuts and bolts, I mean, we could talk about that for days, but basically what I do is once I've spoken to the director or directors and producer, and we realized what we're going for emotionally, I will then take the film, and I used to do this on videotape, and it's much easier to do now on a QuickTime video, but I would watch the movie away from my music environment, even on my phone, iPad, or my cast it on my television, and just watch it like 2 or 3 times, and just like watch the movie, you know, just like get into the actual movie. And I may make a note or two, you know, I won't get too involved in it. And it's at this time we've all decided where music is going to go, where the transitions are going to be. But I just ignore all that and just get into the film itself. Then I'll do something funny. I'll watch the film at like 6 times speed, 6 times faster. And then I'll watch it 6 times faster backwards. So I'll watch it backwards and literally backwards and forwards to kind of get the cadence of the whole movie itself. So I'll get a feeling about what the next event will be. So that when I'm scoring the film, sometimes I may score a scene in the center and then go to the beginning, or sometimes I'll go one right after the other. It just depends. Yeah. It just really depends. So this way I always know where I am in the film. So I don't want to bore anyone else getting too geeked out.
I feel like it's hard to condense something as difficult and as important as you do into a simple term like that. But it kind of a follow-on question from that then is, how do you? I'm fascinated by high achievers, successful people with that kind of drive, and how do you block out your days to like achieve, maximum productivity, keep yourself busy, not, I feel like, especially now since all this COVID stuff, so many people, as many people who probably, I don't want to say benefit from being on lockdown, but actually took the time to develop a new skill or learn something, or read or listen to music or learn an instrument or whatever. There's probably an equal amount of people who spent that entire time procrastinating and now feel like rushing to try and maybe catch up before we hopefully at some point end all this COVID thing. How do you like keep yourself busy, keep to deadlines, and kind of just keep that because you still seem like, even though your career has been so long, you don't sound like you've lost the passion, the creativity, and kind of the love for actually doing the work.
Well, first you have to have a goal. You have to have an idea of what you want to do. Then you have to be very careful who you share that idea with. Because even family members, because you have to remember, just because you have an idea doesn't mean everyone understands it, or everyone has the wherewithal to go through every bit of the steps to achieve what it is you want to do. So you have to be careful who you share that with. Because there are some people that will shoot something down in a second. Look at the Killer Klownz from Outer Space theme. I wrote it when I was 15. My bandmate said, "Oh God, it sounds too jazzy. We're not going to play that crap." Right? And then I knew myself that I could find a home for that. I just didn't know when. And then when I saw Killer Klownz from Outer Space, it all came to life for me. So, so you have to keep your eye on the game, so to speak. And if you do something every day, just something that gets you closer to that, it becomes, I use the metaphor, it's like you see the top of a hill or the top of a mountain. You can't just magically appear at the top of the mountain. You have to say, okay, what am I going to take with me to get the top of that hill? I'm not talking about scaling Mount Everest. I'm talking about a hill that's a place that, when you get up there, you'll be able to get you'll be rewarded with a great view of the surroundings, right? What do I need to get up there? I need the right kind of shoes. Okay, let me get the right kind of shoes. What do I need to take with me? I need this much water and this much food. Let me estimate. Let me see. It's going to take me at least 8 hours to get up there and 8 hours to get back. Should I camp up there? Or should I, make it a whole thing where I start at 6 o'clock in the morning and I come back at 10 o'clock at night? You make those decisions, and all of a sudden it starts becoming real in your mind. What you're going to do starts to become a reality because you've taken these little steps. You haven't even taken the first step yet, but you're planning it out in your head. And so you visualized it actually happening, so that when you drive around town, you say, there's a shoe store. I'm going to see if they have the right kind of shoes that will not only be a good hiking shoe, be comfortable, and be weatherproof and all that. And then now you have your shoes. Hey, you have the shoes that will take you to get where you want to go. And then you figure, well, what kind of food am I going to take? Well, I want to take something that's nutritious enough and high calorie enough that's not going to take a lot of space and not going to weigh a lot. What do I do? You go to some sporting goods place and they have like, these prepackaged meals. You put a little water in, you shake it up and it actually heats up and you have yourself a hot meal. Okay, what kind of, am I going to take a tent with me? There are some tents that just like fold up, for one person that fit like, practically in the palm of your hand. So they all become real, and you take these steps and you execute them. Now you have a little collection. You have the right kind of backpack and all that. Okay, I think I'm going to take a map, and you look at the map, and then you find out. You go to Google Earth. You find out that someone has already gone there, and this is these are the 6 different routes you could take. Which is the best one? People have pinned. You can go to Google Earth, and people have gone to places, the far reaches of our planet, and pinned themselves as being there with a picture on a sandbar in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that just has like wild grass growing on it. There's nothing there except sand and grass, maybe like not even a few acres or hectares, of dry land that you could like sit on. They'll have a picture there. So you've seen other people have been there. Oh, what were their experiences? So this all becomes real to you after a while. So do you see, it's not just like you just get up and start walking.
Yeah.
You have to like take tiny steps. Rome wasn't built in a day. Of course, Rome didn't fall in a day either. So I do that with just about everything I do. I wanted to do a live to film concert, and there were some people that thought that was a crazy idea. Who would want to come see that? And then if you go on, you explore around YouTube, there were plenty of people there. I managed to get 1,000 people showing up to go to our concert, and we had a blast. And all I've been hearing since then is like, when are we going to do it again? And I said, we will do it again. So I'm taking this, I'm applying that same process to doing the music event I'm putting on in the spring, and then ultimately another concert and other things as well, and it's very important to, let me see here, to write. I don't know if you can see this. No, you can't see it. Let me see here. Here we go. Write it down. If you write it down and then you keep it, these are things I have to do over the next month, right? And I keep it around where I could see it.
I'm one of those people as well.
Yeah. You got to keep it around where you see it. I have 3 big things that I want to do, and it's up on my mirror, and I read it every day when I look at myself in the mirror to brush my teeth and everything like that. You just don't lose focus on it. So it's not just magic, and no one else is going to do it for you. You're the only person that's going to do it. And like I said, you have to expect that some people you tell the idea to, and he says, you really think that's something, you think that's okay? When I did Killer Klownz, when I was gearing up, this is like 6 months before the concert, someone said, you think it's a really good idea? Do you think that you might get sued by MGM? And I go, well, I can't get sued by MGM. Why is that? It's impossible. Why? Because I have a letter of agreement with them that I can have permission to put this concert on. Oh, and the eyes get big. Says, yeah, I contacted them. I told them, this is exactly what I want to do. This is when I want to do it. And this is how I'm going to do it. And I want to get your response and go to the proper steps to make this a reality. And they said, very good. You've done your homework, obviously. And they recommended, I got all the proper paperwork and everything, and had a signed agreement, and it went forward.
Have you dealt? A couple of final questions before I let you go. Have you dealt with that much throughout your career, I guess, naysayers and like I think everybody's always going to have people in their life, whether they're close to you or maybe a little bit further removed, that kind of, you know, really, you're going to Killer Klownz from outer space? You really want to bother with that? Or is that something that you've had to cultivate, that I guess exterior armor to be like, yeah, I am actually, and not let that phase you? I feel like we're in a very the era we're in now, I think, with the advent of social media and stuff as well, and I don't mean to sound insensitive by saying this, but people, I think, let too much of what other people are doing and saying kind of get in on them, and it stops people completely from being who they want to be, trying what they want to try. They just try and fall in line. Is that something that you've had to work on, or still constantly have to kind of work on to push that away? Or are you just kind of, you're in your own lane, you focus on your own thing?
Yeah, it's good to be, like you said, it's good to be in your own lane and focus on your own. It's also good to hear constructive criticism. There's nothing wrong with that. It's interesting because I have to catch myself when someone comes with like an idea that's like, that's a harebrained idea. I think to myself, wow, that's fascinating. How are you going to do it? Right? Instead of other people say, why would you want to do that? You know, I mean, you'll run into, you just have, it's been said by many people in many ways, but Quincy Jones, the producer, music producer, Quincy Jones said, I cannot let anyone's opinion of me dictate who I feel that I really am. That's not exactly what he said, but you get the idea. You can't expect, you just have to expect that some people aren't going to get what you're going to do, because in a crazy way, there's so many things working on how people respond to you. Some people respond to you, wow, that sounds exciting. I'm happy for you. That is really cool that you're going to do something. And then there's some people that they actually think like, well, if I had to do something like that, that would be too much work. Then I won't be able to do my other stuff. Therefore, in their mind, it's a bad idea. Well, you don't have to do it. I'm not telling you to. That's what I'm going to do. You know, and you can take it back to the human condition. Let's go back 40,000 years where you're in a little clan of people, nomadic people, and one of the people realized, listen, you know, it's really awful that we don't have enough water. I'm going to take 3 days and go over there where things look slightly greener to see if there's more water. I'll bring some back and let's all move over there. Well, half the people are going to say that's an awful idea because you're going to get, there's a saber-toothed tiger is going to kill you. This is bad things going to happen. Yes, I understand that, but we will have water. You know, that's the keeping your eye on the prize, you know. So it's part of the human nature for people to be critical, and you can determine your success also by the 5 people you hang around with. You know, if the 5 people hanging around with are just like downers, you're going to be a downer too, because they're going to want to pull you down to a common denominator. When you have people that are like forward thinking, forward moving, you'll find that you also will be forward thinking and forward moving. This is turned into like a motivational video.
I'm always fascinated though. That's why I always ask, because I was actually surprised by the amount of people that do reach out to ask different guests and different people, you know, their take on success or creativity, or I think keeping that motivation. And I just think people are so, because now I think we've created this new lane of people who have become fascinated with the idea of preparing to do something but never actually, you know, like I'm going to get all the books, and not that they have bad intentions, they probably have every intention of, but they become like I guess an expert in preparing to, you know, I'm gonna do it. I've read all the books. I've listened to all the podcasts. So I know, but I've just never. You
have to take the first step.
Yeah.
You have to take you have to commit to that first step, And that's what's very important. I had a friend that spent a lot of money going to a particular seminar. And I said, that's fascinating. What did you learn? I learned this, that, and the other. And I said, that's really great. Now, I mean, I'm glad that you went. You know, I'm glad that this person went. That was like, showed a level of commitment. And then, but you do realize that, you should realize that all the person that you spent $1,000 to go see, there's like a universe of free videos on YouTube that you can watch and listen to every single day instead of like wait to go here once. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, and they said, "Oh my goodness!" Then they felt bad. I go, "No, don't feel bad. I mean, I think that's really awesome that you took the commitment of going, and look at all the people that you've met that are like-minded people that they support and bounce ideas off of. See, that was a great thing that you did, but it's available. There's so much information available at our fingertips that we just can't ignore it and be lazy and not afford ourselves that luxury of all the people that have come before us and all their experience.
Okay, so I have three final things. What are some of your comfort movies, whether it be horror or otherwise? Is there anything you find yourself, it doesn't have to be Oscar-winning amazing, but is there anything that you find yourself kind of going back to over and over again?
There's an old movie. It was made before I was born, called The Treasure of Sierra Madre. It's a lovely movie. By today's standards, it might seem a little slow. It's Humphrey Bogart is in it. It's directed by the great John Huston. And it stars John Huston's father is in it. I love road movies, like road pictures. Oh, yeah. Like where there are always people are traveling somewhere.
Yeah.
Those are my comfort zones. I love the late 60s Planet of the Apes because, they're on a march going somewhere. Those types of movies are always fascinating. So that's one of my comfort movies.
It's funny you mentioned that about the road movies, and I only realized this not that long ago. I had a conversation with somebody else, and I mentioned movies like The Hitcher, and there's another couple of movies, and I couldn't really pinpoint exactly but it's exactly what we're talking about. It's those road movies where there's like this story of, we are kind of traveling somewhere. We're constantly on the move. I find them fascinating as well. What's one piece of advice that you would give to aspiring composers, musicians, somebody looking to even do 1% of what you've managed to do over your career?
Well, I hope you could do more than what I've done over my career, but I would say this. I mean, if I was going to go back and do it again, I don't know, that's hindsight is not a healthy thing, but I would say, it's a learning experience and you're always learning something new. Don't be afraid to listen to music that's out of your comfort zone, because some people, they can only listen to one kind of music. Well, if you can listen to several different types of genres of music from all times in history and take something away from it, that's always very important. Now, I'm talking from a creative standpoint. From a business standpoint, there are people that that have like stellar careers. They have homes all over the world. And they basically have done like copied other people's music. Done like I'm talking about this happens always in the ad industry, where they've used a temp track in commercials, and then you got to do something that sounds like that piece of music. You can do that, but there's a lot to gain in having your own specific sound. You may want to, instead of just doing media music and waiting for the phone to ring or constantly chasing down movies, you might serve yourself better in creating your own fan base, creating your own unique music, performing live, maybe, and generating a following. I use the example of it could be extreme example. Trent Reznor, always loved his music when his band in the 90s, and he had such a fan base. It was bound to happen. Someone that directs movies says, I love Trent Reznor's music. I would like him to work on my movie. And I guarantee you that they didn't tell Trent Reznor, hi, we want your music to sound like Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah.
Or maybe they could say, if you can get inspired by something that Jerry Goldsmith expressed musically and you reinterpret it, that's a different story. But if you're saying, we like this piece of music, can you do something that sounds like this, but we won't be arrested by copyright laws? So in other words, the same thing with Michael Giacchino. Producers were listening to music that he composed for various video games. And they said, you know what, let's call this guy up and see if he would work on a TV series called Lost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So be creative, and sometimes you can make the bees come to your hive, so to speak. That's why I would recommend, and that's not a small task to ask to someone to do. There's other routes you can take. You can become the assistant of a composer. Maybe you're a really good programmer, a good sequencer. In other words, you're good at performing music and making it sound great. You certainly you can certainly do that as a start to get yourself into the business. But then after a while, you're going to have to realize that someone's going to have to recognize you specifically for what you do. So it takes time and effort. Persistence will reward you.
Yeah, I think that's key in a lot of what you've said, and I guess in modern day now, a lot of people don't have that. It's like you hear about the overnight success, and it's like, it's the 10, 15 year overnight success.
Right. What you're seeing is the overnight success is actually the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Vangelis, he was making albums long before he was doing films. And people loved his music, and they said, I want this person to interpret my story from a musical perspective. Yeah. And you don't just have to be, an industry brat growing up in the business. You can come up with something that's your sound, that's unique to you, and don't be afraid of that. I do it to this day. It says, I'll say, that sounds crazy. I'm just going to use that. I don't care what people think. I'm just going to use that. I'm doing a hybrid synthwave album that will probably be out next year, and I will be able to exhibit it in such a way that I'll be able to reach a good audience. And so I'm not doing things like I used to. I'm doing. Maybe I do have influences from the past of mine, but I'm doing something that, I want to surprise myself. Yeah. With different sounds and different approaches.
So what's, on the topic of that, and maybe you've already answered this question inadvertently, what's a goal that you have for I want to say the near future, like the next 12, 24 months? What's a goal that you've got?
Is to do more musical events. That's a good one. More musical events that people can come to and that are fun and engaging. It's not like I want everyone to sit in a room and listen to my music. No, I have an event where the audience is just as important as what they're hearing and what I'm doing. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the next 24 months.
I feel like that'll be greatly appreciated now as well, that people, feel like they've been kind of kept away from a lot of that stuff. So I do think that a lot of people will take that more, they won't take it as for granted, maybe. I think there's a lot of stuff there, like the cinema going experience, all that kind of stuff that we all just assumed would always be available. Where can people follow you, or is there anything social media wise? Is there one place better to interact with you than the other?
For me, the easiest is Instagram. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook. I haven't gotten involved. I have to have someone maybe do it for me, because there's only so many things. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm also on TikTok, but I'm not as active on TikTok as I am with Instagram. I
feel like TikTok as well for your music and some of the stuff you've got planned. It could probably be a really good platform that could blow up.
Exactly. It's something I'm evolving. Yeah. But for at the moment, it's TikTok. And at the moment it's Instagram. Okay. And TikTok will evolve and catch up. I'm going to use TikTok more seriously in the next few months, when I actually have the performances that I'm doing. That will kick off the TikTok.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I could do. There's a lot of simple things I can do. I can show people working at my station. I can show videos of myself working at my station and making little comments. But I want to have it hit on something significant. Yeah. Something that's actually finished.
Yeah, that makes sense. For anybody listening, all the links are down below to everything. So whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on, all the links to John's stuff will be down below. So I have one final question. I normally ask why horror and what does it mean to you, but I'm going to change this one slightly. And why music, and why sound and composing, and what does it mean to you?
To me personally, when I was a little boy, music had always given me an experience that I loved. And I didn't realize what I wanted to really do for my life until I was about 11. But when I was as early as I can remember, you could not tear me away from a radio or a record player and some sort of musical instrument. And it gave me an experience. And so I felt at an early age, I felt that I wanted to recreate that experience for myself and other people. And so horror gives people a great experience. There could be like terror in the music, and there could be beauty in the music in horror, because you need a contrast. And that's how music and media and film work for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing people's individual reasoning behind, why horror, why film, why music, whatever the question might be. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, all the links will be down below. So anybody that's listening, whatever podcast platform you're on, all the links to John's stuff will be down below. And we'll keep in touch. And when you've got some more announcements about different things, maybe we can do this again.
Yes, and hopefully when I'm up in your neck of the woods, we can meet in person.
Yes, of course. Like I said, it's been a pleasure. Everybody go and check John out. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Evil wears many masks, but pure horror wears only one. Support First Class Horror on Patreon for as little as $1. Can't get enough of the horror? Carve yourself a deal from official merchandise, only on Teespring. Join us on all social media at First Class Horror. We have such sights to show you.